Some Alberta defense lawyers are raising concerns about how the treatment of a Calgary police officer could look. Constable Craig Stothard is charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder following a 2023 police shooting that left 2 men dead. The Alberta Serious Incident Response Team, or ASIRT, announced the charges on Tuesday. The shooting happened along Memorial Drive in May 2023. At the time, Calgary police said a van was being driven erratically, and despite numerous attempts to stop it, police said the van broke through containments. CPS said the situation escalated and a 13-year veteran officer discharged his firearm, killing 2 suspects. Stothard was able to get a bail hearing on Tuesday within hours of his arrest. He was released on bail. I spoke with the past president of the Criminal Trial Lawyers Association, Paul Moreau, about the case. Moreau is one of those defense lawyers concerned about the perception of Stothard's treatment. He's also a former prosecutor. Paul, what do you make of the bail hearing timeline, with it happening the same day Stothard was arrested?
Well, I can tell you in my experience, having practiced criminal law in Alberta for about 35 years, this is extraordinarily unusual. Typically, people arrested for murder are waiting several weeks at least to get a bail hearing. On a murder charge, bail can only be dealt with in the Superior Court of Criminal Jurisdiction. In Alberta, that's the Court of King's Bench. That court is very busy and doesn't typically have everyday docket courts. And a murder bail hearing is one that takes a fair bit of time. Typically, they are at least a half day. So in order to schedule the court time, it's usually an undertaking that requires several weeks of planning.
So how might this have happened here then, if you're saying this is unusual?
Well, I can only guess at that. I don't know anything about this case beyond what I've seen in the media. So I would guess that likely well before the decision was made to lay the charge and deal with the arrest and bail, the defense lawyer was in contact with an assigned Crown prosecutor, and they had discussions, and it would appear that they came to an agreement that this person should be released on bail, and then they coordinated things so that the information was sworn, and the next day the accused was arrested and brought before the court immediately at a time that had to have been scheduled in advance.
So do you think this timeline has the potential to influence public perception about this case?
I'm concerned about that, yes. For those of us that are very familiar with the workings of the system, we may understand that really nobody did anything wrong here, but to the average observer, it looks a lot like the accused here is getting special treatment because he's a police officer. We should start from the position that police officers who are charged with criminal offenses should be treated just the same as anyone else who's charged with a criminal offense, no better and no worse. And it looks from the outside looking in like this is a case where some special consideration may have been afforded.
Could there be reasons, though, for not keeping Stothard in custody in a remand center?
Well, I suppose anyone might consider that for a police officer to be in custody as a prisoner in the remand center might be a very uncomfortable and potentially even a dangerous situation. So that is a factor that the Crown prosecutor would have likely taken into account. I'm sure the constable's lawyer advanced that argument probably very forcefully and effectively.
I want to zoom out a little bit to the charges on a higher level. What was your reaction when you first heard that this Calgary police officer was being charged with murder?
Well, it's very unusual for a number of reasons. For a police officer to be charged with murder anywhere, anytime is obviously a very unusual event. In Alberta in particular, though, we have had issues over the last number of years where even when ASIRT conducts an investigation and concludes that there are grounds to lay a charge, quite often the Crown Prosecution Service disagrees. And so there's a little bit of a tradition or practice of police officers not really getting charged very often, even in cases where it seems like perhaps they should. So it's unusual to that extent, and it's even more unusual when it's 2 counts of second-degree murder.
Stothard's lawyer declined to comment on the timing of the bail hearing, but said earlier this week that his client maintains his innocence and intends to mount a full and vigorous defense. ACERT says it is fully supportive of the decision to release the officer on bail, its executive director saying in part in a statement, "As delay is an ongoing concern in the justice system, having the bail matter dealt with allows the prosecution to move on to the next stage of the court proceedings." The Crown's office also sent us a statement, in part saying, "The time it takes to appear before a King's Bench justice can vary due to many factors. Speculation hinting at unfairness in the handling of this file is without merit."